Unconditional love, to me, is an entirely different thing. It is a transformative response, which is ironic because unconditional love ends up being the experience that you can love and that you can feel loved without anything having to change. And it's truly motivational for change, which is ironic or paradoxical or both, because you no longer have this experience that anything needs to change. And then suddenly everything changes and you're okay with that too. So it's very interesting dynamic. It's very dynamic. What does it mean to say, are you in the presence of, or do you access unconditional love? It's like a force in the universe. It's like being able to access the sun or being in the presence of the sun, like the sun coming through the window right now. I did not cause that. I can tell you for sure, I did not cause that to happen. When I'm alive, I can access that and I can choose to access that. So it's like a natural force that you can choose to access. When you are in the presence of unconditional love, it feels like it's a force that takes you over and you have this experience of like, nothing needs to change, to be loved. Not just accepting everything. This is not just acceptance. Literally loving everything the way it is. That's the experience. When you access unconditional love, you don't even have that to change on your list. Nothing needs to change.
And I remember you kind of blew my mind with a single statement, which is that the precognitive ability improves in a state of unconditional love.
So precognitive ability of the type that I was talking about means the capacity to retrieve from your unconscious mind information about a future event that would be randomly selected in the future, and report that before the event is randomly selected and then shown to you. So the event in this case is an image that is randomly selected from, say, 600 images, I think, in that study. Among the people I've tested, the capacity to retrieve information that's relevant to describe this upcoming image as compared to, for instance, a control image is better, significantly better, if you're in a state of unconditional love. I developed previously a 4 or 5 question questionnaire to help people figure out, if they're feeling the experience of unconditional love right now, with respect to themselves, with respect to others, with respect to animals, strangers, the device on which you're doing the survey kind of thing. Really telling was the level at which they felt love towards the device on which they were doing the survey. That really differentiated precognitive capacity. So if people felt so much unconditional love that they were feeling love towards their computer on which they were doing the survey, then those are the folks who were significantly better than chance at precognition.
Why do you think that is?
Well, partly because they're doing the precognition task also on the computer. So if you have a relationship with your computer, if you think of everything as being capable of being in relationship with you, and you're feeling this expansive, like, look, nothing needs to change. I don't need to try to force this to behave in a certain way or give me a certain response. I could just be in this love connection with this, everything around me. Then it makes sense to me, I guess, because I've seen so much capacity to do precognition. That doesn't surprise me, but it makes sense that that capacity would open up in relationship with this device. Why I wanted to test them with unconditional love is because anecdotally I'd heard from people who are in the Stargate program, which is the government's program about remote viewing, which many people probably heard about, but also precognition was validated as early as 1995 using that program. And it was stated in the final report that actually killed the program 5 times that precognition is actually useful, or at least statistically significant. And so precognition in the Stargate program, the folks who practiced it are some of the people I respect most highly on the planet. I mean, why? Because over time, doing this kind of remote viewing, accessing information in time and space, different than where we are, where they were, it does something to you. It's a practice that changes your mind. It opens things up, and almost, as far as I can tell, people I know who practice it, almost all of them move towards this unconditional love kind of spiritual direction. So that's why I wanted to test it, is because I had already seen that these people had been doing this for decades, were more focused on this incredible love, self-transcendent state. And so I thought, well, maybe there's something to that.
Would you see unconditional love as something that operates without regard for the arrow of time?
Yeah, it's like unconditional love. That's a really good point. If it is a universal force, it doesn't follow time and it doesn't follow space. It doesn't decay with space. It doesn't decay with time or have a directionality. So sometimes when I take myself seriously and say it's a universal force, then I think that way. And that's why, people would, when they're accessing unconditional love, would be better at precognition because those things are opened up to them. It's like you're now with this boundarylessness. So you don't have this boundary in time. So of course you get the information. Curiosity is like a step forward towards unconditional love. It seems, or towards accessing unconditional love, because curiosity puts you in a frame. I mean, when you can get there, it's not like you can always get there. Sometimes you're like, I can't get to curiosity. But when you can get there, it puts you in a frame of being open instead of thinking that something has to be different than it is. And so it's a step towards acceptance of all that is, which is a step towards loving all that is. So to me, it's like if you could draw a graph of the number of times people can get to curiosity, and then a graph that people can get to acceptance, and a graph of people getting to unconditional love, these would be overlapping graphs, but there would be a smaller peak on the unconditional love one because we aren't trained to go that far. It's like we hit like a joy thing, and then people start asking these questions like, oh, well, I get how unconditional love would work in my personal life, but I couldn't do it in the office. Okay, why do they stop short of accessing unconditional love habitually? I think it's because we secretly believe this idea that we have power that we don't have, that our judgment about something is going to change things. Like, I can't love that person for being drunk and throwing up all over me and stealing my money. Like, I can't be unconditionally loving of that because I wish it would have been another way. It's like, of course you wish it would have been another way. That sucks. Like, you don't want anyone to do that. And loving everything exactly as it is means including that. And you can walk away and you can report the person to the police and you can love that too. Like, it's like we believe we have this power by judging, by an emotional judgment. We're going to make it better. Or we're going to make, like, that person's going to be punished or something. I mean, I don't get it. I do get it, but I don't get it. It's also like everyone's birthright. And so it always kind of bugs me that people don't just play around with it, but I get the resistance. There's a lot of fear actually that people have about losing their identity when you start thinking about time differently, because we think of ourselves as everything that makes us up in the past. And when you have a balanced time perspective, which Eric loves to talk about, which is what we try to create with our technology at Tilt, you not only acknowledge, like, yeah, that was the past and that's part of me, but the future is part of me too. And what I'm looking forward to and what I'm planning for in the future is part of me too. And that can help people be less afraid to do these kind of experiments with precognition. You just start to think about your life like a landscape rather than a tunnel. What part of the landscape am I on now? Oh, there's the mountain over there. I got to get ready, And so the process is shifting your view of time. And one way to do that is by leaving yourself little messages, your future self little messages, and mentally sending messages back to your past self. That's just a life hack that we already know reaps benefits psychologically, regardless of whether you become precognitive. Okay, so let's say you're doing that life hack. Now what? Well, now you're gonna have a sense of your modality. How does your information about the future come to you? Some people feel it, they don't know what's going on, but they feel weird, like there's about to be an earthquake or there's about to be a fire or something, right? So it's like a somatosensory thing. Some people hear they'll hear lyrics to a song and then the plane will crash or something, like, or they'll hear their best friend's voice and then their friend will call in their mind, right? So visual, somatosensory, taste, smell, does it come to you like a movie? Some people just see the whole thing and that's what happened. People know. Does it come to you in dreams? people know, when you start thinking about it, everyone knows how this information comes to them, and then they doubt it, right? When the thing happens, right? Oh, I had this dream about it and then it happened, but like, how could that possibly be real? I'm going to doubt it. That's totally reasonable. You should doubt it. It's fine. But if you keep a notebook and just commit to writing down these things that you might call synchronicities or precognitions or prophecies or oracles or whatever, you'll start to notice that your brain, because your brain believes you when you tell it what's important to you. So, like, you tell your wife, UAPs and aliens and psi is now important to me. What she's saying is like, tell your brain that this other stuff is more important, because your brain will spend time and intention and attention on whatever you say is important to you. So if you take a notebook and you're writing down these pieces, right, or just drawing this picture that you can't get out of your head and you don't know why, and then like 2 days later you see that on the book cover or something, that tells your brain, this is important to me, I want to get better at this. And then your brain does the rest. Just like when you're learning a musical instrument, right? When you practice a musical instrument, you're telling your brain, this is important to me, I want to learn this song, and then boom. But Eric, what you were saying about like bringing this into the workplace and how it could actually help with productivity, I think people are so I think those are really good points, being able to say what's true. It's difficult to say what's true if you don't feel that there will be love there, that won't be accepted and heard and loved. And I also think people will work for love. The teams that I have run, my experience is people are working that, yes, there's a minimum amount of salary they need. And for particular professions, they're going to need more than that. Like, to feel, each person is going to have a salary that they feel comfortable with, right? But if there isn't love there, they're going to be looking for another job, because that's what people are doing. What are you doing with your waking hours if you're not working on a team where there's love? I mean, really, that's devastating. So people, and the converse, when there's hard times or a difficult challenge and you have this team where people know that there's love, people will work and step up for love.
Yeah, it always sounds cheesy, but having been on both sides of that, where like you don't understand, if you're in a zero-sum, energetically limited engagement all day long, it literally drains your energy. And if you're in a positive sum, infinite game all day long, you literally gain energy from your workplace, and it becomes more resilient. So like I've seen these structures outcompete over the long term. Those teams that are based on love, unconditional love is probably a lot to ask for, but do tend to outcompete.
That's how you break.
Love. Yeah, sorry.
That's how you break KPI lock. I don't know if that's a familiar term, but you've got your objectives, you got your KPIs, and your OKRs, and all these indicators of how well you're performing. And invariably, you can't account for everything with those indicators. And in a culture that doesn't have love, where people want to see one another succeed, anything that falls between those KPIs falls out of the business through the cracks. In an organization that does have love, people will say, well, I'm not being formally tracked on this, but this will help our team do well, and this will help this person on my team do well. So you have a lot more of that picking up anything that's not made explicit. And I think that's probably the differentiator between the organizations that I'm seeing fail and succeed.